Hello, hello, hello there. Now, you may have heard that adding a performing arts preschool program or maybe subleasing your space may be a great way to add more revenue and utilize your space. But there may be a few costly details that you may want to consider before you jump headfirst into these new programs. So, good morning. Hello. In this week's episode, I'm going to break down for you some key items that you want to really consider before you make some costly mistakes in your pursuit of growing your bottom line. And so, if you're joining me, say, hey, Aaron, what's up? Let me know that you're here. I want to know who is with me whenever we have our weekly live shows. And if you want to get a copy of today's show notes, drop the word daytime below to get access. Now, if you're new here and you've just stumbled upon us somehow, I'm Erin Bird, and I support dance studio owners and educators just like you to grow your businesses by really creating the unique vision of success that you have for yourself without the burnout, without the overwhelm, or sacrificing your personal lives. So if you're joining me, say, hey, Erin, what's up? Let me know that you're here. And if you come back in on the replay, I want to know that as well. So you can drop a hashtag replay below and we will come back in and continue the conversation with you. Now, before we get into the goods, right? Before we really just dive right in, if you know somebody who may need this information in their life, feel free to sprinkle the love around, right? Because we're better together. And we like to learn out loud here. So, y'all, hey there, good morning. So we like to learn out loud. So if there's a moment that you have an aha or a really great nugget takeaway that you want to share with everyone, I would love for you to in the comments below just drop whatever it is. Hey there, Lori. Happy Wednesday to you too. This week has been a crazy week for us, if I'm being quite honest. We've had a little bit of ickies in our home. Ickies, little sickness in our home, and we are trying to finish out our last week of school strong. So let me know, how is it going in your world? Are you in the Done Club? I want to know. Or let me know if you're not in the Done Club yet. Tell us when you are done, when your show is happening, your recital, your showcase, your spectacular, whatever you call it. I want to know. So let us know. Are you in the Done Club or when is it coming up? Because we are rounding the corner and coming to the finish line, y'all, for this school season. And depending on where you're at in the neck of the woods, you might be just starting up a new term. So let us know where you are at. I would love to know before we kind of dive right in. So I'm going to get myself a little drink here. Because I want to share some really important information. Reset June 25th. Oh, yes, it is coming up. It is coming up. It will be here right before you know it. Our family is not in the Done Club until June 17th. That is when my daughter's recital will be, and then we will be officially done for this season. So cannot wait to be part of that Done Club and really be able to dive into summer. But this topic's actually been coming up quite a bit. I've been seeing it coming up in some of the Facebook groups. I've had people actually direct messaging me and asking me questions about this. And so I thought, you know what, this topic is one that we really need to discuss, because while we might hear of the idea of let's start a performing arts preschool program inside our studio, because I mean there's nothing like it in our area, and how wonderful would it be, and we can make an impact, and then obviously we can start to use this as a revenue stream. We can utilize our daytime space that we're not using right now. or you might have thought, oh, let's sublease our space. I've had maybe a yoga teacher come and approach me, or hey, I may have had the karate guy come in, or a personal trainer. You know, there's a lot of times you might be thinking, hey, subleasing it during the day isn't a bad idea, right? Because it's not being used. And sometimes we don't actually dive into thinking about some of these things that you really want to consider before you head forward. So let me know in the comments below, are you guys currently doing any daytime programming outside of your normal classes? What I mean by that is you might during the day have a mommy and me class. You might have maybe some younger toddler classes, that sort of thing. But those are your normal programming. You're not necessarily subleasing or having somebody else come in and do it. Let me know. Or maybe you are having a preschool program or something to that effect. I would love to know. But I also want to know who's been thinking about this idea and how it could affect and help their bottom line. I want to know kind of where you're at. So, number one, if you are already utilizing your space to its fullest during the daytime, or two, you are thinking about venturing out and possibly adding something to your studio's programming or subleasing it out. I want to know, right? Let's go ahead and let's get to the goods today because, like I said, I've been getting some messages and, hey, Erin, I got approached. Let's start with this one. Leasing your space out to others. How many of you have been approached by somebody who says, oh my gosh, your studio, it's beautiful. I love it. I'm a personal trainer and this would be a fabulous space for me to use. And I would love to, talk to you about that, right? Okay, Lori, awesome too. So you're thinking about it. All right. So how many of you have had that happen before? Or you've been thinking about, hey, I could advertise this in a way. So if you've been thinking about leasing out your space to others, some of the things that I want you to think about are number one, do you own your building or are you leasing your building? Now, if you own your building, well, then it's up to you, right? You get to decide if you want to lease it out to others, right? Yes. Insurance. We're going to talk about that too. So, first things first, if we're leasing out to others, and you're leasing, the first thing you need to do is obviously look at your lease agreement because there a lot of times inside those lease agreements, it specifically states you are not allowed to lease out your space to others. And if you do, you would be in violation of your agreement, your contract. And that could be a big problem. Don't y'all think? Right? So there's that. Insurance reasons. Yes, 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 yes. Again, we have to look at our insurance policies. Liability. Liability. I would always talk to my insurance agent broker because even if it doesn't expressly state that you're not allowed to do that, you want to see what the ramifications are because even if they have their own liability insurance, if something were to happen, you can bet your bottom that both insurance companies will be involved. And so how does that affect you? The other part of that is we have to really think about our return on time investment, that sort of thing, because is it worth, right? Is it whatever you are charging? Number one, is it worth it if you were to have a claim? If you were to have, so we have to really weigh the pros and the cons. And something a lot of people really don't think about when it comes to leasing out your space is actually branding. Because when we lease out our space to others, how is our branding either being compromised due to sharing a facility, right? Because do you need to, depending on the situation, is the expectation that the person gets to post their signage, put out their information, sell to your clients essentially, right? Is that something that you want to be part of? Because I have seen, unfortunately, in the past where um, a studio owner will sublease out to 2 or 3 different groups. One was like a private fitness instructor who was doing personal training. One was a mommy's group, like a MOPS group that was coming in. And the third was it was like another dance instructor, but she was doing more of like a dancing for birth, a pregnancy, that sort of thing. And she had said, yes, everyone can put out their information, whatever. And it changed the studio culture. It changed her brand awareness. People were confused because they're like, oh no, that's this place. No, no, that's the studio. Oh, it became really muddled, and it took away from all the hard work that she had put in on her branding and her awareness because she was trying to leverage it. And when we looked at the dollars and cents, it didn't really make sense. And the other thing is, are you going to be able to charge a rate that aligns with all the things that you are providing? Okay. So you want to think about that. And I feel like Debbie Downer right now, but I think it's really important that we actually lean into these things and to talk about these things. And the other thing that you want to think about, so we've talked about, insurance, we've talked about branding, we've talked about studio culture, your rental agreements, those sort of things. But here's something else that you have to think about, because this happens, oh my gosh, so much, is when you sublease it out to somebody else, are they going to take care of your studio the way that you would take care of your studio? And so many times, or are they going to help themselves to things that are not theirs to use? I can't, this, believe it or not, y'all, this happens so often. And when I'm talking to studio owners who are frustrated because they've gone down this route, and then they're like, well, Susie, oh my gosh, they leave trash everywhere. No matter how many times I tell them, they don't clean up after themselves. And I'm coming in and I'm spending an hour cleaning up their mess before I can ever even open up my studio for the evening. I'm like, well, so is it worth it? $30 an hour, $40 an hour. I don't remember what she was charging, but is it actually worth that? Right? Right, Jamie? It's so true. It happens all the time. And or she keeps getting into my props cabinet and I've told her she's not allowed to use the props, or she keeps helping herself to the snack cabinet and that's for my staff, not for her, right? Whatever it might be. And so these things, although they feel like, well, these are common sense things or whatever, if you decide to go this route, you need to really lay out an agreement that lays everything in black and white, what your terms are, how you guys will how both parties can dissolve the agreement, given if, one side or the other isn't happy, payment terms, all of those sort of things you have to think about. And I would absolutely, get with your lawyer if you are going to go this route and lay something out that is mutually beneficial, but it makes everything clear and concise when you go into these sort of agreements. Yes? Let me know, what other questions do you have about if you are going to be leasing out space to others? I definitely want to know. Drop them in the comments below so then that way we can answer those questions and continue this conversation for you. All right. So, and I will come back to them. I absolutely promise. Even if they come up after this and you're like, something came to mind and I want to talk about it. The other thing that I know might feel like, oh my gosh, there is such an amazing opportunity in our community. What if I created a performing arts preschool program during the day, where we mix, you know, education, preschool education, and we could do some dance and we'll do music and we'll do fine art, and we could create something in our community that is magical and that is different from anything else being served, right? Raise your hand and let me know if you've ever thought about that. I want to know. Or if you've seen some programs out there saying, you could do this and you can add $15,000 a month to your bottom line. Have you heard it? I know I have. And so I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about some things that you really need to think about. And I want to make sure that you do your due diligence and really think about it, run the numbers, base your facts on date, or base your decision on facts, not feelings, on data, right? Because I have recently seen some information out there in our industry, and it like literally gave me anxiety because it was not correct information. And I would hate for you to be led astray from someone who is giving you the wrong information or not all the information, right? Um, yes. Okay. So, Sarah, we're going to talk about who's going to pay you, though. Yeah. Where's the money coming from for this pre K program? So, let's talk about that. So, the first thing that I want you guys to really think about and actually do your research is because I have been in the early childhood education industry for a long time, as well as the dance industry. I have spoken at their national conferences for NAEYC. I am very well versed. I work with studio owners across the globe. And what I want you guys to do and to really think about, because this is really important, is who is the regulatory agency that oversees childcare and daycare and preschool in your community? Because that is a separate agency. They do not just look over dance. We know as dance studio owners, we typically don't have, in the States especially, a regulatory agency that looks over dance studios, right? We're kind of in a way self-governed. Yes, do we have the fire marshal who tells us how many kids we can have in the building? Do we have like those sort of things? Absolutely. But we don't have a regulatory agency that just drops in unannounced to make sure that we're in compliance with the laws, right? Well, let me tell you what, there absolutely is for childcare, preschools, daycares. And you need to know if the program that you are wanting to do needs a child care daycare facility license. And unfortunately, there was some information out there saying, oh, you don't even need, if it's a half day, you don't even need one. Now, that might be very well true in your neck of the woods, but it is not true everywhere. And I can tell you, quite certainly, that many states, if your program is 2 hours or more, you absolutely need a child care license. And you need to go through the process to obtain one. And now, is this something that could absolutely stop you in your tracks if you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize? It could be quite extensive to be licensed as a daycare facility. It can be. And I can tell you there might be things that the state would require you to do, remodels, revisions, um, additional protocols, additional safety maps. Like it could be quite involved depending on where you live in the world. Now, I'm not saying that's the case everywhere. There's some states and there's some areas that It's easier than others, but you need to do your due diligence and know what deems a child care center. And are you willing and able and ready to go through that process? Okay? Because we have to think about the costs incurred again for our return on investment, right? One of the other things that you need to think about is your staffing. If you are considered a child care center, then you will need to follow your state's licensing manual when it comes to hiring staff. Some states, that means your staff needs to have a certain amount of ECE units, early childhood education units, or certifications, which means you need to hire somebody who has those in addition maybe to your music teacher and your dance teacher. And if your other staff, your your dance teacher, your music teacher, your whoever, if they don't have those units, you need to have somebody in the building who does with them in the classroom to make sure you're in compliance. So that as well can raise your employment and staffing costs. What modifications? I've seen where they've told studio owners, oh, your bathrooms are too far away. You have to have either bathrooms closer or whatever. And they're like, I can't afford to move bathrooms. But they had already dove into trying to get licensed without doing their due diligence. And they wasted and spent a whole bunch of money for nothing because they didn't know what the laws were. Right? And then a big thing that I don't think a lot of studio owners think about is if you are considered a child care daycare facility, are you ready and willing for that regulatory agency to appear, to pop in, to drop in unannounced at any time and audit your studio, your program, and your business? Are you prepared for that? Because once you become a child care facility, that is absolutely what will happen. That is part of the program. That regulatory agency, it is their job to oversee the welfare of those students and of those children and to make sure that you are running your program accordingly. Are you ready for the scrutiny? I mean, honestly, and I hate to make it sound negative like that because you could absolutely, I have some clients who run a fabulous preschool program during the day. Absolutely fabulous. And it is absolutely fantastic revenue that adds to their bottom line. But we absolutely did the due diligence to make sure we knew what was all involved and to make sure all her ducks were in a row. So before you hear someone tell you, oh, yeah, add a preschool program to the game, it'll be fabulous. Y'all, does it make sense? Does the data and the facts make sense? That's how we decide on which is the best path for us to go. And Sarah, you asked here, and I'm gonna show there, who's gonna pay and where's the money gonna come through for those pre-K programs, right? So the other part of that is, yes, then you also have the marketing, all those sort of things. If it's privatized, and cash paying parents, does your community need that? Do they want another preschool? Do they want a performing arts preschool? Is that a need in your community? And the other question is if you decide to go another route, and let's say you want to be subsidized, you want families, you want to be able to have an inclusive program, and you want families to be able to maybe pay through some subsidized programs like supportive services and things of that nature? Are you set up with the state to take those programs? And the other thing you have to think about is how long it actually takes to get your money if you take those subsidized programs and the paperwork associated with participating in those programs. And I hope that y'all know I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. My job, though, is when I feel like maybe there's some information out there that is not giving you all the details or misrepresenting what something can be, I really feel strongly in my heart and I feel compelled to come out and to talk about it because in my heart, I want to see every single one of you succeed. And you could absolutely make either of these things work. We just have to come up with a really great plan, a strategic plan that thinks about all these things, do our due diligence, and make sure that we aren't drifting away from our original mission in the pursuit of additional revenue or, oh my gosh, I just need more money to cover it. So I'm going to try all these different things. If it doesn't align with your bigger vision, and sometimes we do stray from those because we see, oh, someone said over here they're making $15,000 a month in their preschool program. I can do that too. We have to make sure that we're staying in alignment with our vision, our mission, our goals, and our values. And we have to think about these things before we dive in head first. And so all of these things we have to think about, the insurance and the marketing and the licensing and what our own agreements say and legality and branding awareness and it might seem like a lot and I'm not here to discourage y'all. I hope you know if you've been here with me for a while, you know that I am the biggest cheerleader of everyone's success. That being said, we have to make sure that we're being smart about the programs that we launch. And so if you've been thinking about adding daytime revenue, I'm a fan, and there are many ways that you can add to your daytime revenue. And I absolutely love working with my clients and coming up with a strategic plan, not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, but really creating a strategic plan that works for you and for what your goals and your vision is and your bottom line. Because you can have passion, but y'all, you can have profit too, and you can live a good life. But we have to really just think smart and strategic when it comes to our planning. And so I wanted to let you guys know, I also this weekend am going to be holding a super laid back, oh my gosh, kickback, free training that will happen inside of Facebook Messenger. I have been getting a lot of questions, or actually people have been telling me that they feel like if they got their systems in order for the fall, that would make their life so much easier and they would give them more time, more freedom, be more productive, make more money, but they just don't know where to really get started. And so I decided that this weekend I'm going to be hosting this free training, and it's on how to create simple and sustainable systems for your studio that are easy without having to spend a whole bunch of extra time pulling your hair out trying to create these systems. I want to show you my secret ninja tip on how to make systems or how to create your systems, the top systems that every studio owner needs, and how to start planning which ones are the most important for you to get started with first. So that's going to happen this weekend in Facebook Messenger. If you want to be part of that free training, just drop the word systems below and me and my team will reach out to you and we will get you registered for that. It's absolutely free. It starts Friday. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what happens is I will just drop short little videos inside Messenger all weekend long. They're under 5 minutes each, most of them under 3 minutes or each, because I want you to be able just to quick pop, take a look at it, do the thing, right? In between all of the busyness, because I get what time of year it is, y'all. I get it. And no one needs to be sitting in a long training, taking a, setting aside 3 hours of your life to learn this. So if you want to get into that free training we're having, just drop the word systems below and we will absolutely get back to you. Now, if you've had something that you say, I need to think about that more, drop it in the comments below. I would love to know, what is it that resonated with you? What is it that you really are considering, or something you hadn't thought about? I want to know that as well. And as always, I will be here next Wednesday. I will be having a guest on next Wednesday. I am super excited about this topic because the truth is, I'm so excited to learn. I do not know a lot about this. I'm not giving away the dirt yet on who my special guest is, but I want you to know that I'm excited to learn, which means y'all should be excited to learn. So we will be back next Wednesday. So let's do a speedy little recap of what we talked about today. When it comes to your daytime revenue, right? Your daytime revenue, things to consider before launching a new program, because we all have heard that you might want to add something to your studio, like a daytime performing arts preschool or subleasing your space, and that might be totally great, but we need to really consider all of the things before we decide to dive in head first, feet first, all of the things. So when you're leasing out space to others, you need to think about, does your lease allow for that? Will your branding and your studio culture be compromised? How are you going to make sure that your studio is taken care of the way that you would take care of it? Does your insurance allow it? And what are the ramifications? What liability do you hold? Right? And are they going to be in alignment with your bigger vision and mission for your studio? And if you've heard, add a daytime performing arts preschool program, right? It'll be great. Have you done your due diligence to look at what are the licensing requirements for your state for childcare? What actually deems childcare? Is it when you have more than a certain amount of number of students for a certain number of hours? Yes, it probably does. And you need to find out what that means for you and your community, because each one is different. And so you want to make sure that you understand that fully. Do you meet those requirements for licensing? Are your staff, are they certified? Do they have enough ECE units, right? Are your staff allowed to be left alone with those students? Of course, we all know we need fingerprinting, background check, and all of that great stuff. That all comes with the territory. But sometimes we don't think about the EC units, or like here in California, you have to have proof of immunizations. There's some other additional things that you need. And so we need to make sure that we know what those requirements are. And what modifications would the state or your community ask that you take to be in compliance? And are you ready and willing for that regulatory agency to drop in unannounced and audit your program at any time? Because that is a reality. That is a reality once that you decide to do this program. And if you have more questions about daytime revenue in your studio, questions that are coming up for you, y'all drop them here in the comments below. We would love to know. We want to continue the conversation with you. We want to make sure that you're taking all the proper steps before you dive into this, and that any program that you decide to do is going to be profitable and it's going to make sense. And of course, y'all, this weekend, I will be hosting the Simple and Sustainable Systems free training. So drop the word systems below if you want to get into that. And y'all, I have to tell you that I have been feeling so inspired by all of you recently, and I'm going to be coming on and sharing some things that we've been working on here. And I hope that it will be a ripple effect and we all will actually see what is possible, because there is so much possibility out there. We just have to, I don't know if you see it, decide. We just have to decide. And so I'm going to be sharing that with you as well. I hope that if you are not in the Done Club, that you are feeling good about going into recital. If you don't have a system in place, you definitely, or your system's only up here, you should definitely join us this weekend. But if not, I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. I will see you all same time, same place for another episode next Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific of the Aaron Bird Live Show, and where we lean into joy, mindset, and business strategies that are actually going to work for you to move the needle forward. And so, y'all, I hope today was informative. Let me know. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover, we want to know that as well, because we're here to support you. I'm going to leave you there. Thank you guys for joining. Yes, Lori, thank you so much. And I hope that I will see you all very, very soon.